Thank you, Lasker Herlock. At the outset, can I welcome my colleague, Minister Burke, to the House and thank him for his presentation and the enthusiasm with which he goes about all these things. I also, I want to begin by acknowledging the work of civil defence during COVID, during the COVID pandemic. I think they did extraordinary effective work on a number of fronts, and dealing with older people and people living in more isolated conditions, etc., etc. Across the board, they've done huge work, and that, I think, merits acknowledgement. I think it's a reasonable proposition, sadly, that we may not have had our last pandemic, and for that reason, it's important that we would have a strong, active civil defence and would be in a position to deal as effectively with future pandemics as we did with the last one. So that makes the legislation and any dealings with civil defence of crucial importance. I might also say on a general note that I'm particularly proud of our civil defence organisation in County Cavan. We have a very big commitment to civil defence there, a very big involvement in terms of numbers and activity, and constant activity around football matches, etc., and around various activities. And in the past there, we've had 3 flag holds in a row, and any of the public events that are there, but they were also very particularly there during COVID. And of course, there is always the risk of, we had some years back, the foot and mouth disease, which presented huge difficulties in a border constituency, a border area rather, and that brings into focus the importance of civil defence also and any supporting organisations. The Minister makes the point that a lot of this is regulatory and modernising legislation, and as such we welcome it. The Minister remains responsible for overall policies and responsible for operational matters, that is a continuation of the de facto situation, restating it in the modern legislation. Local authority, the county councils, which is good, it's important. The role of the civil defence is to manage the operation at local authority level, including the admission, the training and management of civil defence volunteers, as Section 5 states, and this is important at local authority level. It's important that we devolve to local authorities functions that they're capable of implementing, and certainly this is one that there is a good tradition of implementing successfully, and that's there's a local tie-up. I notice, in fact, a good few of the civil defence volunteers are also staff of the local authorities, some of them, and that's a good thing too. But there is a range of other people, obviously, quite a range. They're not the majority there by any means. Relates to the process, may become a civil defence volunteer, and obviously there is a proud tradition there of the quality of volunteers, and there has to be a process there. There's a register serving, and it's maintained in electronic form, and the Minister went to a lot of trouble to point out that that's in keeping with data protection legislation, and that's how it should be. There should not be access to those records by any marketing companies, by any other forces or people who have no right to be involved with that information. It shouldn't be accessed by anyone, only the relevant officers, the people themselves, and the people there is provision within the legislation for an individual to seek an updating or an amendment of the register in relation to their own position. But it is important that it is in keeping with data protection legislation. And a volunteer can at any time inspect the register and look at what is there, and rightly so. The Civil Defence Plan Section 8 updates existing provisions concerning the preparation by local authorities of civil defence plans, approved then by the Minister and published. And it's important that there would be a civil defence plan there, that there would be a plan there to deal with all potential emergencies, whether it's crowd issues, at various cultural or social events something that might arise there, or whether it's pandemics or whatever, that they are on standby and that there's a plan in terms of the growth, in terms of recruitment, in terms of training and keeping morale and motivation up. And it's important that there would be a plan and that the plan be acted on, and the plan indeed should be reviewed on a fairly regular basis. Concerning, so there's includes provision for section 10 that the Minister can make provisions for a code of practice at any time, and amendments there, regulations around the code of practice for civil defence volunteers. We have an exemplary, I think the Minister might confirm in his concluding remarks, from my anecdotal knowledge, I think we have an exemplary record of our civil defence volunteers. They are one of the groupings that, thank God, have been immune from a lot of the dreadful information that indeed you, Lasker, here, like and others were discussing here in relation to other organisations. My understanding is that the civil defence have an unblemished record. You might confirm that in your remarks, but that's my anecdotal information on it. I didn't seek a question on it, but I gather that's the case. And certainly I know that in all of the areas that I know well personally, they're exemplary people and do a great job. And then, of course, the Air Precautions Act of 39 and 46 have been updated, and the Civil Defence Act of 2012. So they're being, where appropriate, maintained and updated. And then the Section 14 allows for transitional arrangements. So I suppose in essence it's modernising and good legislation, and it's welcome, Minister, and it certainly will I understand have the unanimous support of the House. It's good legislation. I think we should, it's an occasion as a second stage to pay tribute to our wonderful civil defence people. I'm particularly proud, as you expressed a similar pride in your own Westmeath ones. I am very proud of the Cavan Civil Defence and the wonderful job they do. And they're very visible, and they're very visible in a good way and doing a great job. And I'm also pleased that everything will be done to protect those people in terms of data protection in their registers, and that there will be upgrading and training. And I suppose if we wanted the Minister to assure us of anything at the end, it'd be to assure us of good continuous funding, training and modernisation, and a review of plans, and that it be an ongoing organic process, that we just don't sit on our laurels here. Thank you.